Today I'm going to discuss functions and classification of emulsifying agents. First of all, we need to know what will happen if we don't add an emulsifier in an emulsion. Consider this diagram from left to right. When two immiscible liquids are mechanically agitated, both phases initially tend to form droplets. When the agitation is stopped, and as if we haven't added an emulsifier, the droplets quickly coalesce and the two liquids separate. So here we need to add an emulsifier because emulsifier can stop this coalescence and emulsion will be stabilized. Emulsifiers generally impart stability by the formation of a mechanical or electrostatic barrier at the droplet interface in the form of an interfacial film or in the external phase and work as rheological barrier. Actually, the ultimate goal of emulsifiers is to prevent coalescence of the emulsified phases. In this way, they help to stabilize the emulsion. In some cases, the interfacial film formed around the dispersed phase globules work as mechanical barrier and sometimes work as electrostatic barrier to inhibit the process of coalescence. Now question arises, how they work as rheological barrier? Actually, in many emulsions, the external phase is thickened by the emulsifier. That means emulsifier significantly increases the viscosity of continuous phase. In this way, the structured continuous phase forms a rheological barrier which prevents the movement and close approach of droplets. That's how they work as rheological barrier to prevent coalescence. Emulsifying agents also imparts thermodynamic stability to emulsion as the surfactant emulsifiers lower the interfacial tension between the oil and water. This facilitates the formation of droplets during emulsification and reduces the thermodynamic tendency for coalescence. Emulsifiers also impart kinetic stability to the emulsion. What does it mean? As emulsifier increases the viscosity of the emulsion, that's how they restrict the motion of globules and maintain the dispersion state of emulsion for an extended period of time after the cessation of agitation. That's why they increase the kinetic stability of the emulsion. So ionic emulsifiers stabilize the emulsion through electrostatic stabilization, while non-ionic emulsifiers stabilize the emulsion through steric stabilization. Let's discuss these phenomena. First, what is electrostatic stabilization? As this phenomena is involved when we use ionic emulsifier to stabilize oil in water emulsion. So what happens? Actually, ionic emulsifier forms a charge layer at the interface of each globule of internal phase. When the globules having similar charges on their surfaces approach each other, a repulsive force is induced, which tends to oppose further approach, and this repulsion will stabilize emulsion. We call it electrostatic stabilization. Now, what is steric stabilization? In case of non-ionic emulsifiers in water in oil emulsions, the steric repulsive forces arise. When polymer chains approach one another due to this steric repulsion, droplet coalescence is inhibited and emulsion is stabilized. We call it steric stabilization. Actually, polymer chains need entropic freedom as they can acquire many entropic configurations. Due to this reason, the globules surrounded by these polymer chains stay at some distance from each other. So we can say this steric stabilization is due to entropic repulsion caused by polymer chains. Next is classification of emulsifying agents. We can classify emulsifying agents broadly into two classes. One is synthetic or semi-synthetic surface active agents and polymers, and the other is natural macromolecular materials. Synthetic or semi-synthetic surface active agents and polymers are further classified into surface active agents and polymers, which contain ionic surfactants, which may be anionic surfactants and cationic surfactants, non-ionic surfactants, fatty amphiphiles, polymeric surfactants, while natural macromolecular materials contain phospholipids, steroidal emulsifiers, and solid particles. Now first is surface active agents and polymers. Surface active agents are those compounds which have a tendency to accumulate at the boundary between two phases. As these substances perform their activity on surfaces, that's why they are called as surface active agents, or shortly we call them surfactants. Their absorption at the various interfaces between solids, liquids and gases results in changes in the nature of the interface, which are of considerable importance in pharmacy. For example, the lowering of the interfacial tension between oil and water facilitates emulsion formation. The adsorption of surfactants on insoluble particles enables these particles to be dispersed in the form of a suspension. Their adsorption on solid surfaces enables these surfaces to be more readily wetted, and the incorporation of insoluble compounds within micelles of the surfactant can lead to the production of clear solutions. So they are used in pharmacy in these number of ways. Surface active compounds have two distinct regions in their chemical structure, as we can see in this diagram: a hydrophilic or water liking region, which is head group, and a hydrophobic or water hating region, which is tail group. The existence of two such regions in a molecule is referred to as amphipathy, and the molecules are consequently often referred to as amphipathic molecules. The hydrophobic portions are usually saturated or unsaturated hydrocarbon chains, or less commonly heterocyclic or aromatic ring systems, while the hydrophilic regions can be anionic, cationic or non-ionic. Let's discuss all classes of surfactants in detail. First, ionic surfactants, which contains anionic surfactants and cationic surfactants. Anionic surfactants dissociate at high pH to form a long chain anion with surface activity. So these surfactants perform their emulsifying properties only at high pH. In acid conditions and in presence of any cationic materials such as cationic surfactants and polymers, the emulsifying properties of anionic surfactants are lost and emulsions are unstable. The examples of anionic surfactant are alkyl sulfates. The example is sodium lauryl sulfate. Sodium dodecyl sulfate is an important component, is a commonly used surfactant. Alone, it is a weak emulsifier of the oil in water type, but forms a powerful oil in water blend when it is used in conjunction with cetostearyl alcohol. Other examples are monovalent salts of fatty acids. Emulsifiers in this group consist mainly of the alkali salts of long chain fatty acids and form oil in water emulsions. They are generally formed in situ by the interaction of a fatty acid with appropriate alkali. For example, in white liniment, ammonium oleate is formed in situ from the reaction between ammonia solution and oleic acid. Other examples are sodium stearate, sodium oleate. Next examples are divalent salts of fatty acids. Calcium salts of fatty acids containing two hydrocarbon chains form water in oil emulsions because of their limited solubility in water. For example, in zinc cream, calcium oleate is formed in situ from the interaction between oleic acid and calcium hydroxide. The monovalent salts of fatty acids, they form oil in water emulsions, while divalent salts of fatty acids form water in oil emulsions. However, all these anionic and cationic surfactants, they are used for the preparation of only topical preparations. Next class of ionic surfactants is cationic surfactants. They dissociate at low pH to form a long chain surface active cation. So they perform their emulsifying action only at low pH. Emulsions containing cationic surfactants as emulsifier are unstable at high pH and in presence of anionic materials including anionic surfactants and polymers. The examples are quaternary ammonium compounds. These constitute an important group of cationic emulsifiers in dermatological preparations because they also have antimicrobial properties. For example, in cetrimide cream, the mixed emulsifier is prepared by blending cetrimide, cetyl trimethyl ammonium bromide, with cetostearoyl alcohol to form cationic emulsifying wax. These can be only used in topical preparations. Next is non-ionic surfactants. They are more useful as emulsifiers in pharmacy because they are less toxic and less irritant than ionic surfactants, and this is the reason that a limited number of non-ionic surfactants are used in parenteral and oral products. In addition, non-ionic surfactants do not ionize to any extent and thus they are more resistant than ionic surfactant to changes in pH and the presence of electrolytes and polyvalent ions. There are a number of non-ionic surfactants available commercially with different oil and water solubility, producing either oil in water emulsions or water in oil emulsions. Most non-ionic surfactants are based on Number 1, a hydrophobic moiety with 12 to 18 carbon atoms. The starting material may be a fatty acid or sorbitol, and a hydrophilic moiety composed of an alcohol or ethylene oxide groups linked to form long polyoxyethylene chains. So we can modify the characteristics of surfactant. For example, if we want to make surfactant more hydrophobic or more lipophilic, we can increase the length of hydrocarbon chain, and if we want to make it more hydrophilic, we can increase the length of polyoxyethylene chains. The examples of non-ionic surfactants are number 1, polyoxyethylene glycol ethers, which are also known as macrogols. These are a series of non-ionic surfactant condensation products of fatty alcohols and polyethylene glycol. They are used as both oil in water emulsifiers and water in oil emulsifiers. For example, cetomacrogol 1000, which is used combined with cetostearoyl alcohol to stabilize oil in water lotions and creams, including cetomacrogol cream BP. Next examples are sorbitol esters, which are widely known as SPANs. These are produced by the esterification of one or more of the hydroxyl groups of sorbitol with a fatty acid. Various fatty acids are combined, resulting in a range of commercial products. For example, sorbitol monolaurate, which is known as SPAN 20, and sorbitol monoaleate, which is known as SPAN 80. Other examples are sorbitol monopalmitate, which is known as SPAN 40, and sorbitol monostearate, which is known as SPAN 60. These are hydrophobic and produce oil in water emulsions. Next class is polyoxyethylene sorbitol esters, which are also known as polysorbates, and they are marketed under the name as tweens. They are more hydrophilic and used to produce oil in water emulsions. As you can see that there are more polyoxyethylene groups in these emulsifiers. That's why they are more hydrophilic. Examples are polyethylene 20 sorbitol monolaurate, which is known as tween 20, and polyethylene 20 sorbitol monoaleate, which is known as tween 80. Other examples are polyethylene 20 sorbitane monopalmitate, which is known as tween 40, and polyethylene 20 sorbitane monostearate, which is known as tween 60. Next are fatty amphiphiles, which contains fatty alcohols and fatty acids. For example, cetyl alcohol and stearic acid. These are used as auxiliary emulsifiers because when they are used alone, they are weak emulsifiers, and when they are used in presence of ionic or non-ionic surfactants, for example, when formulated as emulsifying waxes, they act as powerful emulsifiers. Another group is glycerol monoesters. For example, glyceryl monostearate and glyceryl monoleate are the most common monoesters used in dermatological preparations. Again, these are used as auxiliary emulsifiers and used in combination with other emulsifying agents. Next group is polymeric surfactants. The proximers are a series of neutral synthetic polyoxyethylene, polyoxypropylene block copolymers which are used either alone or as auxiliary emulsifiers with lecithin in small volume parenteral injections. An example of proxamer is proxamer 188, which is used in combination with lecithin in small volume parenteral injection. The advantage of using proxamer 188 is that it is resistant to breakdown during autoclave sterilization. Up till now we have discussed synthetic or semi-synthetic surfactants. Next class is natural macromolecular materials. These are natural emulsifying agents which are derived from plant or animal sources. As these are derived from natural sources, that's why they show considerable batch to batch variation in their composition, and due to this variation they may result in variable emulsifying properties. Many of them are also susceptible to microbial contamination and degradation by oxidation or hydrolysis of components. So in order to reduce such instabilities and to extend the product shelf life, purified and semi-synthetic derivatives are generally used in commercial preparations. So they contains phospholipids. Purified lecithins are natural surfactants derived from egg yolk or soybean oil. They are used extensively as oil in water emulsifiers in parenteral and oral emulsions. Next class is hydrophilic colloids or polysaccharides. Polysaccharides including gums such as acacia and tragacanth, alginate and cellulose derivatives are hydrophilic colloids that are predominantly used as emulsifying agents in oral preparations. They are not usually used in topical preparations because they render an unpleasant feel to topical emulsion. They are susceptible to degradation, in particular by depolymerization. Polysaccharides provide a good growth medium for microorganisms, therefore it is necessary to add some preservative in such emulsions. Another important point, they do not lower interfacial tension. Some polysaccharides including acacia and purified and semi-synthetic derivatives of methyl cellulose stabilize oil in water emulsions by the formation of thick multilayered films which are highly resistant to film rupture. In this way, they act as mechanical barrier to prevent droplet coalescence. and some polysaccharides form poor interfacial films and are relatively inefficient emulsifiers when used alone. Rather, they act mainly as viscosity modifiers as they increase the consistency of the external phase. In this way, they act as rheological barrier and thereby inhibit creaming and coalescence. Next class is steroidal emulsifiers. Examples of steroidal emulsifying agents derived from animal sources include wool fat, which is also known as lanolin, wool alcohols, also known as lanolin alcohols, beeswax, and cholesterol. They are used for their emollient properties and are used as water in oil emulsifiers. They are prone to oxidation and hydrolysis. That's why antioxidants should be added in these emulsions. To enhance their emulsifying properties, we can also use them in combination with other emulsifiers. We can also modify them chemically to produce either water in oil emulsifiers or oil in water emulsifiers. For example, a large number of purified and chemically modified derivatives are available commercially that produce more stable water in oil emulsions and retain desirable emollient properties. They are sometimes modified to produce oil in water emulsions. For example, a series of non-ionic water-soluble lanolin derivatives that promote the formation of oil in water emulsions have been produced commercially by reacting lanolin with ethylene oxide. Next class is solid particles. Finely divided solid particles may stabilize emulsions if they are partially wetted by both the oil phase and the water phase. And they should also possess sufficient adhesion for one another to form a coherent interfacial film to give a mechanical barrier against droplet coalescence. The examples are bentonite, aluminium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, aluminium magnesium silicate. If the solid particles are preferably wetted by the aqueous phase, they will produce oil in water emulsion, and if these solids are preferentially wetted by oil phase, they will produce water in oil emulsion. Their effectiveness in stabilizing the emulsion will depend on particle size, particle shape, wettability, interparticle interactions, and the emulsion medium. This table is representing the examples of each class of synthetic surfactants, the type of emulsion they form, and the route of administration they are used for. Here you can see that anionic and cationic surfactants can only be used for preparation of topical emulsions because they are too toxic to use for oral and parenteral route, while only a few of non-ionic surfactants can be used for parenteral route, and mostly non-ionic surfactants are also used for the preparation of topical emulsions. And this table is representing examples of natural emulsifying agents. Here you can see that polysaccharides and phospholipids are safe to use for the preparation of oral emulsions, while only phospholipids, purified lecithins are used for parenteral emulsions, and sterols are used only for the preparation of topical emulsions, while finely divided solids can be used for topical as well as some oral emulsions also. Thank you.